Buzz, 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 and welcome back to the Yellowjackets Hive for a hiatus episode of Hive After Dark. I'm your host, Emily. Happy Easter, guys. When I scheduled this live stream, I didn't realize what day it was, but I wanted to continue on with the live streams for another week since this is the first week since Valentine's Day that we haven't gotten any new episodes. And I know that's left a gaping hole in all of our hearts. But have no fear, there is still plenty for us to theorize and speculate about. This episode will be quite heavy on the speculation, which is my favorite part of being involved with the fandom. Hi, Dustin. So I'm really excited to do this episode tonight. Thank you guys for joining me for another week. So this week, we're going to dive into some questions. First, we'll cover the questions that we had answered for us this season. Then we'll get to the unanswered questions of the series as a whole. And hopefully we'll get some clarity on a few of those before the series concludes. I think a few of them will be left open-ended and ambiguous, though I'm not really mad about that possibility. I personally enjoy a little bit of the ambiguity and think that's what makes watching the show really fun. But that's not to say that there aren't things that I want answers to as well. Now, for the unanswered questions, I tried to cover the biggest and most relevant ones that I could think of. I'm sure there's one or two that I missed, but I obviously can't include every single question that the show has presented, or we'd be here for literally days. So, given the fact that this is a mystery box show, if you think there's one that deserves to be talked about, just pop it in the comments and then we can discuss it along the way. Now, I won't lie, I did a lot of research and my notes are quite extensive for this episode. So I may not highlight as many comments as usual, and I may even have to skip a topic, to be honest. I did a lot of research. I think I went a little bit overboard. So, and I don't want to talk your ear off all night long. I believe supernatural versus trauma will be left for speculation. Yeah, that's definitely one that I think will be left for speculation. Hi, Tori. Hi, I don't know how to say your name and I don't want to butcher it. Elon. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But let's get started. So, for the answered questions, obviously, we know the biggest ones. And the one that I decided to start with was, who is Pit Girl? As we all saw, the scene that we've all been waiting for literally years now has finally played out on the screen, on our screens in the season 3 finale. We got our Pit Girl, and her identity is Mari. Mari was honestly my guess from the very beginning. She was super snarky the first 2 seasons and particularly cruel to Misty on many occasions. In the finale of season 3, we finally saw the infamous scene from the pilot play out in real time. But everything was not how it seemed or how we all perceived it to be anyways. Before we saw this play out, many of us were under the impression that the hunting of one of their own was for survival purposes. Now we know the actual truth, and it's a mixture of things. Vanessa Prasad revealed some information about a deleted scene from the finale that provides a little bit more context into the hunt, into that. She said that Akila, Mari, Jen, and Melissa were essentially plotting to use the hunt as a way to kill Shauna. If you kill Shauna, you neutralize the heart of the issue. We see Akila say something along the lines of, if we want to have another hunt, I may have an idea. And directly after that, we see her crushing up some leaves and then giving them to the animals, which kills them and then forces the hunt. But in the deleted scene, at least Vanessa said, it shows the 4 of them having a conversation about it and giving a little more context. Vanessa said she messaged me after our live stream and she told me that she actually went and referred back to the scripts and read through them to make sure that she was getting her story straight. And it was Melissa who suggested that they could make it almost look like an accident. And Mari suggests the hunt and steps forward saying she will be the one to kill Shauna, which makes her line of, you deserve everything that's coming to you, all the more impactful in my opinion anyways. I guess the idea of rescue outweighed the possibility of one of themselves being the one who chose the Queen card, which is what ended up happening. I don't mind the fact that they cut the scene per se. I enjoy the ambiguity and leaving things up to us to fill in the blanks in some situations. But I do think if they had shown that, it would have made the hunt for Mari a lot more devastating. Pronounce however you wish. Hi, Michaela. Um, so they were all attempting to distract and kill Shauna during the hunt for Mari. Jen was used as a distraction and got Ty's attention, claiming she needed her for help. Melissa stepped in and tried killing Shauna, which I can only deduce happened because they all assumed Mari was dead and their plan was ruined. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Mari rubbed me the wrong way big time for the first 2 seasons for a few reasons. That rhymed, even though I didn't intend for it to rhyme. But this season, Alexa knocked it out of the park. Between go fuck your blood dirt and I walked back to civilization to fuck your dad and I'm too sexy for this cave, she had the best one-liners of the season. I was hopeful that something would happen and it would be somebody else besides her after she pulled that queen card, but as soon as she started stripping down to that white nightgown, I knew it was like game over. And it was really satisfying to see that scene finally play out. Hi, Dark Empire. I miss and love Mari so much. Yeah, Mari, she was so good in this season. I hope Alexa comes back as a ghost. That she should come back and haunt Shauna forever for what Shauna did. But so the hunt for Mari was not for survival purposes per se. It was a decoy to get them home. And not to mention, there was an entirely separate plan happening that we will discuss in just a little bit. As I said earlier, when we saw the scene in the beginning, up until this point, the common assumption was that they did this to survive, which I guess isn't entirely untrue. Their intentions were to utilize this to get rid of Shauna, who at that point was kind of keeping them all prisoner. The Cannibal Council feast was not done out of necessity, but as some twisted way for Shauna to assert her dominance over the rest of the group. So having a lesser character be killed would weaken the impact of Pit Girl. Totally agree. Totally agree. And for our next question, we have, who is the Antler Queen? This was another huge one, and many of us were dying to know the identity of the Antler Queen. After the season 2 finale, many of us believed it would be Natalie because Lottie essentially crowns her the leader of the group because they tried to kill her, but they were unsuccessful, which to Lottie meant that she was undeserving of the leadership role, and she decided to pass it on to Natalie. And Nat had that role for a while. We know there was a time jump in between seasons 2 and 3, and things seemed to be running as smoothly as they could with Natalie at the helm. She seemed like a fair leader who genuinely wanted the best for everybody. But as we saw, she killed Coach and they stripped her leadership role from her faster than Mari stripped off that windbreaker. Lottie then steps forward and says Shauna will lead them. Not entirely sure why she suggests the most mentally unstable one out of the bunch to lead, but I kind of chalked it up as Lottie knew that if she didn't step in at that moment, that Natalie was as good as dead. Shauna's reign has been brutal, as we all have seen. She forced Natalie to butcher Coach, she almost shot Melissa, and kind of just ruled with an iron fist. Like, what was up with the bed check in the finale for Natalie? That's still something that I've been wondering about. Hi, Book Monkey. Many groups were scheming and each group had a different purpose. Yeah, and it was just so crazy that there were all these separate plans happening and none of them knew about the other one. I was so curious to see why Shauna singled Nat out and rummaged through her TP. Like, what was she looking for? Evidence that Natalie was somehow plotting something? Hi, Jasmine. Shauna had no idea about the fact that they were attempting to fix the sat phone, so it definitely wasn't for that. The bed check was totally right, as Natalie was the one who supplied the knife to Hannah. I don't think so, though, because I think that some time had gone by. I really do. I think they were two separate instances because in the scene where she gave Hannah the knife, Hannah was still in her regular clothes from when they first came in, and then when we see her doing the bed check, she has this weird mask on, she's got her hair in braids, like, some time has to have gone by. I read something that the bed checks were to check if everyone was there. No, she was just trying to scare her. Why should it matter? I guess it doesn't matter. It was just something that I personally was curious about. Do we know what happened to Akila? That's on my list. After episode 7 and the introduction of Hannah and company, I was 100% convinced that Shauna was going to be our antler queen from the Cannibal Council feast. When she pocketed Hannah's hair from the tree branch, it immediately made me think of the hair that adorned the antler queen's robe. What if it's a misdirect and the bed check was after Nat gets back? Do we see Mari in the bed check scene? No, we don't see Mari in the bed check scene. No, I mean, why should the knife matter? Well, she didn't have a knife at that point, but I think they're just referring to the fact that Natalie gave Hannah the knife in, I can't remember if it was episode 9. No, it was episode 9. And then we see in the next episode Shauna doing the bed check. So I'm a little bit confused. Hey, happy 420, everybody. Happy 420. Michaela, oh my God, I have my Akila theory ready. Okay. I've never seen someone with Shauna's level of paranoia. No, never. Literally never. After, like I said, after episode 7 and the introduction of Hannah and company, I was 100% convinced that Shauna was going to be our antler queen. And like I said about the hair, if she's pocketing the hair as some weird kind of trophy, then she most definitely is the one behind why there's hair all over the antler queen's robe. Many didn't believe it would be Shauna until they saw it play out in real time. As Melanie Lynskey said in her monologue at the end of the finale, I was a warrior. I was a fucking queen. Which, so she clearly viewed herself that way, which is very fitting given that we call her the Antler Queen, which, by the way, is a name that was entirely created by the fandom. When the show first came out, the creators referred to this role as the shaman. They only started using Antler Queen after it picked up traction within the fandom, which is really, really cool. We've come up with some really clever ones along the way, too. The next question would be, how are they rescued, or how rescue is initiated anyways? I originally thought the bed check scene was Lottie seeing the future after Nat gets back for calling, but I'm not sure about that anymore. I don't think it was the future. I think it was sequential. It didn't seem like they were trying to fool us in that moment, in my opinion. So next question, how they're rescued. Can I just say 2 things? The very ending of the finale was so freaking epic. It gave me goosebumps. And Sophie Thatcher gave a 10 out of 10 chef's kiss performance for the entire season, hands down. I am team teen Natalie all the way. We have been wondering how they were found ever since the show first came out. And we've got a few hints here and there along the way. With one hint that just kept popping up over and over and over again. And that was that Nat was responsible for their rescue, for getting them home. In the very first season, Taissa says to Shauna, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, which is even eerier to think about now, knowing Shauna was trying to keep them in the wilderness and keep her position of power for as long as she possibly could. Like I said earlier, during the hunt, there were 2 separate plans in place. The one we already discussed, and Misty, Van, and Natalie all banded together so that Nat could sneak off with the sat phone to call for help. When what wasn't originally a part of that plan was Hannah's involvement. It kind of worked out nicely, though, that Hannah followed Natalie, and they did end up switching clothes in order to give Natalie more time to call for help. But what they didn't realize is that Shauna should be plenty smart enough to eventually figure out that they were missing one person. Or did she fail AP stats after all? I wonder if Natalie goes back to camp or she stays waiting for rescue and then goes to get them with the rescuers. Yes, we will discuss that. Do they still have 2 months out there? I'm still confused. I'm not exactly sure. I'll get there in 1 second, Em. Uh, they were one short from the time that Mari was killed until she makes the realization that something is up and pulls the covering off Nat's face and sees that it's in fact Hannah. That means they butchered Mari, more specifically, Hannah butchered Mari. And with Shauna thinking that it was Natalie, and had their feast all without Shauna realizing that they were missing someone. Now, for being so paranoid, that seems like a really big thing to miss. So, Nat is the one who, long story short, gets them rescued. But what will she do now? She can't stay there and wait for rescue to arrive. They are in the middle of nowhere, so it's going to take some time for them to locate their exact location. I'm assuming the sat phone has GPS, so they will be able to find them that way. But I also keep coming back. I think they're rescued January 1998, right? And it's probably November now. I don't know when it's supposed to be, honestly. I like when Hannah, I'm a little bit confused on what month it should be. I feel like they're kind of flubbing the timeline maybe a little bit in the teen timeline, because there's no way that once she calls for help, there's going to be like 3 months until rescue. That's crazy that it would take them 3 months to find them in 1998. It didn't even take them that long to find them in the Andes crash in 1972. So I can't see, like, and if they had a sat phone with their exact location, then it can't take that long. And I'm thinking logically though, and the show doesn't always think it's logical. Doesn't always give us the logical, I mean. So they will be able to find them that way, but I keep thinking back to the fact that Kodiak said that they were a 6-day hike from the pickup point, which does not mean that they were 6 days from civilization. My assumption when he said that was this was an agreed upon location to meet whoever would get them the rest of the way back, whether that be by car or truck or helicopter or further on foot. I obviously don't have those answers, and neither do they, since they killed Kodiak. But if Natalie goes back to the village, what is Shauna going to do? Is it possible that Nat tries to hide out somewhere and maybe wait it out until Shauna cools down a little bit? Will she go back to the village and tell everyone else that she actually managed to make contact with the outside world? I kind of feel like she has to. Ty said to Van this season that the frog scientists lost their shit when they saw Coach. Imagine what happens when the rest of the world gets here. So they have some things they need to take care of and clean up before rescue arrives. They don't want anyone discovering that they ate each other. We know this. We know part of their official story after they were rescued was something along the lines of, we starved and scavenged and prayed for 19 months until they finally found us, as Shauna said to Jessica Roberts in the pilot episode of the series. Taissa said the same thing to Diane Raffleson in episode 4 of season 1 as well. So we all know that they agreed upon some type of story, and they stuck to it. So I feel like Natalie has no choice but to tell them. But how long until rescue arrives though? Like I said, I can't see it taking months and months if my assumption, and I'm assuming like it, satellite phones have to have a GPS attached to them. So they will be able to narrow down their location a lot quicker, as quickly as possible in late 1997, early 1998. That's what I took from what Kodiak said as well. They're very far from civilization. They must have all agreed not to mention Shauna's baby too. Yep, I totally think they agreed to that. I think they agreed to hide everything they did out there. Like, I think they hid the fact that they even found a cabin, that it burned down. Obviously, I'm assuming they hid that because if they revealed any information about that, they might reveal that they killed Coach in some way. So I think that they're going to keep that a secret too. Ty mentions this in the finale. I want to see that scene where they agree to this. My guess is rescue reaches them within a month tops. I feel like there's a possibility that Natalie may take them back to the cliff she called for the rescue at, and maybe a helicopter can land there and fly them out. I go back and forth as to whether whoever ends up rescuing them actually sees the village they created after the cabin fire or the plane wreckage. Because in season 1, we see Shauna on the internet searching her own name, and an article about a lawsuit pops up. You can't read much of it, even while you pause it, but it's implied that some of the team members' parents sued in regard to the crash. I'm not sure if that means they necessarily had to find the plane in order to sue. I don't know the specifics about how all that would work. It's definitely some type of civil lawsuit, but their official story also kind of makes me think those things are never stumbled upon by the rescuers. If they did find their plane wreckage, wouldn't it have been in the news about the bodies that were found there? I know they could always say they died in the crash or something of that nature, but many people have said that there would be evidence of cannibalism by looking at the bones. I don't think that they ever admit to eating each other out of fear of how it would be perceived by other people. I think back to when Misty had Jessica Roberts captive in her basement in season 1, and Misty and Jessica are having a conversation about what happened out there, and Misty getting a book deal to give the exclusive story. Jessica referred to the Andes plane crash in 1972 and said something like, "You ate each other, and people will feel bad for you, just like they did with those guys in the Andes." That makes me think they never admit to it. Because Misty didn't answer her when she said that. She just gave this like, kind of look. So, like, she didn't even entertain what Jessica Roberts said. That makes Like I said, that makes me think they'll never admit to it. What happens in the media aftermath and how they're handled by the rescuers when they first get there and realize they are in fact finally safe, um, and going home after 19 months is something that, like, I'm dying to see. I cannot wait to see that. For the next question would be, who killed Lottie? This was probably the biggest mystery of season 3. Lottie's death was something that I did not see coming, and judging by the things that Simone Kessel had to say, she didn't see it coming either. She once said something about it being used as a plot device to send Misty on a goose chase to discover her true killer. It was it was meant to further Misty's storyline in a nutshell. And I don't think she's entirely wrong. Misty made it her mission to discover who killed Lottie this season. Our resident citizen detective finally cracked the code in episode 309 when Walter showed her Lottie's clone phone and she saw a picture of Callie wearing Jackie's necklace. At first, when Misty saw this, I thought that it was possible that Misty had seen something that implicated Walter somehow, and that's why she split so fast. But for Walter to leave behind evidence that he was responsible would be quite irresponsible for someone as knowledgeable as him about the citizen detective world. We know he's a skilled hacker. He managed to make all the evidence regarding Adam Martin's death point to Kevin Tan after he killed him with the poison hot cocoa. When I saw Misty at Callie's school, I knew immediately that Callie was responsible for Lottie's death and the true culprit. It was super interesting to see the interaction between Lottie and Callie just before Lottie died. I had been saying for a while that Lottie had some weird fascination with Callie, and I was right. We saw that unfold in this specific scene with the things that Lottie was saying to Callie, like, "It took our baby, it gave us you." It it literally made my skin crawl when she said that. It took our baby. This to me meant that Lottie truly believed that the baby that Shauna lost in the wilderness was almost like community property since they were all there together. I mean, she told Shauna in the teen timeline that they would all help her and it would be a beautiful thing. Yeah, raising a baby in the middle of the wilderness with no food and no way to sustain yourself just after pregnancy would truly be a beautiful thing. I was a little confused when Lottie said to Callie, "She can't love you because she's jealous. You're just like her, but more." I personally perceived this as Lottie saying that Callie was just like Jackie. Shauna and Jackie were best friends, as we all know, and many within the fandom believe that Shauna was in love with Jackie. I personally don't believe that. I think it's entirely possible for teenage girls to have a platonic friendship and still be close. People just like to make it weird sometimes. Um, but I will admit that they definitely wanted us to think that slightly, the creators. Um, so Shauna was super envious of Jackie and wanted what she had. I mean, she literally slept with Jackie's boyfriend. So I took that statement as her referring to Jackie. Did anyone else interpret it differently than me? Because I'm at a loss. That to me it didn't make sense for it to be referring to Shauna. Does anyone know what they meant by that? Like, they've seen it explained by a cast member or one of the creators or something. If so, I would absolutely love to see or hear the explanation. I know some people think she means Shauna, but why would she be jealous if Callie was just like her? That just doesn't make sense to me. Even though Jeff tried to reassure Callie that Lottie's death was an accident, it's an entirely different kind of accident than when Crystal fell off shit cliff, because Misty never physically put her hands on Crystal. Crystal just walked backwards in the wrong direction and fell. Now Misty was walking towards her, but Misty was not physically responsible for her death. Callie, on the other hand, actually physically pushed Lottie off those steps. And it wasn't really to defend herself in that moment because she wasn't in danger. I mean, that like Lottie wasn't trying to harm her, but Lottie was definitely creeping her out big time. And she creeped me out too, so I get why Callie pushed her. But let's be real, this was no accident. I'm glad that they at least showed us this scene between the two of them, because I was really expecting a relationship to blossom between the two of them, Lottie and Callie. And for Lottie's fascination to continue to grow over the course of this season. So this was like a decent consolation prize in a way. It was confirmed that that's what they were going for anyway. I have questions about Travis' drunk ramblings pre-hunt. Yeah, that was crazy. That was wild. The My favorite thoughts were Jackie's, the makeouts or the sleepover makeouts, the jealousy, the betrayals, whatever it is that he says. Yeah, that was something. I would have loved Lottie and Callie sitting on the steps explaining to her what they were doing in the wilderness. I feel like they had to show us the scene with Lottie because it had been off screen. We would have been so dissatisfied. Oh, absolutely. Would have been The fandom would have had a fit if they didn't show us Lottie's death or at least give us some answers into it. For her to die off screen and not get any closure on that, like that would have sucked because I mean, they only introduced her in season 2 and then killed her off in season 3. So that would have been really that just would have sucked. So the next question would be, who sent the DAT tape and what was on it? In the first episode of the season, a mysterious envelope shows up on Shauna's porch, and we see Callie retrieve it and then pocket the tape when Jeff surprises her. In the process, a note that was included with the tape fell out of the envelope and fell under their fridge, which we see Shauna notice in the finale. Callie had that tape, or so we thought, for the entirety of the season. But it turned out that Lottie stole it from Callie's room when she stayed at their house. That's another question I have. What possessed Lottie to steal the tape in the first place? She didn't know what was on the tape. So why take it at all? Why steal a random tape from a teenager's room? Super weird to me that she went through Callie's room in the first place, but as we saw, she had an interest in her, so I'm not entirely surprised by that. I highly doubt, though, that Lottie had a DAT player just casually lying around for these types of instances like Van did. So she never even heard the contents of the tape at all. When the tape was originally left at the Sadecki house, we saw what appeared to be a woman watching the house before the tape was left there, implying she was the one who left the tape. And as we all came to realize, that was in fact Melissa. Melissa is still alive and played by none other than Hilary Swank, which I swore up and down she would not be playing Melissa, and clearly I was very wrong. Melissa sent the DAT tape to Shauna, but I think her reason for sending the tape is entirely suspect and not the entire truth. And how did Lottie know Callie had it? Why did Lottie want the tape? Like, what did exactly, like, Lottie didn't even know what was on the tape, so why would she want it? It doesn't make any sense. Like, unless she just assumed that Callie would want it back and she would come to retrieve it and they would get to have that interaction. That's the only thing I can think. Um So maybe she did want to let go of the past in a way, Melissa, but it makes zero sense why she would give Shauna the tape if she was as terrified of her as she actually claims to be. Which makes me wonder, is it possible someone put her up to sending the tape? Walter, possibly? I have said before, I have said this before, but I've started to wonder if there's a possibility that Walter and Melissa have some connection somehow. Melissa literally says to Shauna, "You scare the fucking shit out of me." Why send evidence of murder to a woman you are terrified of imploding the lie of a life you have been living? How weird is that that Melissa ended up marrying Hannah's daughter? She was only 10 when they were rescued, meaning Melissa was at least 7 years older than her at that current time. I have so many questions about that, so many. The whole reason Melissa even had the tape was because Hannah asked her to bring it back from the wilderness and give it to her daughter if anything happened to her. We know she brought it back, obviously, but she clearly never gave it to Alex. Instead, she decided to freaking marry her. Literally, no one besides Melissa and Hannah even knew that tape existed. So I just don't understand why send the tape at all. If it was really haunting her, why not just destroy it? Smash it with a hammer, burn it, rip the actual film inside of it into a million pieces. So many other options that don't include sending the tape to a woman you know is capable of horrible things. I mean, Melissa faked her own death so she could start fresh and get away from everyone. I'm wondering if we will get more insight into this once we get season 4, but the confirmation or the confrontation between Shauna and Melissa in episode 308 had me on the edge of my seat and holding my breath. And that didn't happen often for me in the adult timeline. Shauna finds the note that Melissa said was with the tape in the finale episode. And from what I could read of the letter, she basically said the same things in the letter that she said to Shauna when Shauna confronts her at her house. That doesn't mean that she's being truthful though. In fact, it could just mean she's a really good liar. She's been living a lie ever since she faked her own death. Her wife has no idea who she really is. She probably said she had no family when she got into this relationship with her to avoid her finding out the actual truth. And for not wanting your life to blow up, she did a pretty good job at creating that clusterfuck herself. Shauna would have never come looking for her without that tape. Trying to get away 25 years later, that's something you would do a few years later. Yeah. Destroying the tape may have emotionally destroyed her more, like she had killed Hannah again. What remained of her if she destroyed the dad tape, needing to compromise? I just think, especially after Van, that she sent the tape solely to insert herself back in the YJ life. Yeah, I think it's something like that too, Michaela. I do. Because it makes no sense if you're that afraid of people finding you and you've hidden yourself away. Why would you do this? Why would you send it to the one who tried to shoot you in the middle of the woods and made you pee your pants? Like, why would you do that? Just makes no sense. The next question would be Coach Ben's fate. There was nothing I was pulling for more than a present day Coach Ben reveal. I so wanted him to be behind the postcards, seeking his revenge on the women in the present day. We had no idea whether Coach lived or died until episode 306, though most were of the belief the entire time that he wouldn't make it out, and they were right. Me personally, the longer he started to survive, the more optimistic I became that maybe, just maybe, he managed to make it out of the woods. Nat tried her hardest to protect him and keep him safe from the others. We clearly saw this when she noticed the trap that he had set when she was out with Misty and she tried to divert Misty's attention away from it. And she tried to save him during the trial. She did everything in her power that she possibly could to keep him alive. And in the end, it was her, ironically, who did the thing that no one else would do and put him out of his misery. After Akila's vision made him their bridge home, they latched onto that idea and decided to keep him alive instead of murdering him in cold blood for something that they aren't actually 100% sure he even did. We will talk about that later. When they sliced his Achilles, I knew he was done for. He was already down a leg, so he wasn't exactly going to be running away from them, By doing that, they rendered him completely incapacitated and made him 100% dependent on them for his survival. When I live streamed with Vanessa Prasad the other night, she commented about Travis's drawing from the trial and how it was meant to symbolize Coach, the scientists, and Kodiak. One figure is lying beneath the other three, which is obviously Coach lying before the three of them, signifying his death. And I guess in a way, he kind of was their bridge home because him being cooked is what led the scientists to their camp because they literally smelled him being cooked, which led to them meeting someone who could actually get them out of there. But unfortunately, he got stabbed in the brain. But with their arrival came the discovery of the broken sat phone. So, like I said, in a way, he kind of was the bridge if you want to connect the dots. I will say that Sophie Thatcher broke my heart in two during the scene when she killed Coach. Everything about it made me sob. They both did such a phenomenal job in that scene. Edwin thought he was going to do a barbecue. He sure was disappointed. Yeah, Edwin got a lot more than he asked for, guys. I'm still not fully convinced we've seen the last of Paul. I have a feeling he knows what they did to Ben somehow. That would be something. I would have loved for Coach to have survived and changed his identity and turned into a rifle-happy cabin dude in the remote wilderness. Me too. Well, he wasn't invited. LOL, he crashed. Yeah, they definitely crashed that party. So the next question we had answered this season would be Van's fate. Not long after we were introduced to adult Van in season 2, we found out that she had terminal cancer. And by the sounds of it, she did not have a lot of time to live. The time that's passed in the adult timeline is significantly less than what has passed in the teen timeline. And Van never specified what type of cancer or how long she was told that she had left, if I'm remembering correctly. We only get more insight into that when we get into season 3, when we see her at the doctor and they tell her that the cancer has stopped spreading. And again, when the women bring her to the emergency room when she starts throwing up blood, Ty tells the nurse that Van has metastatic cancer. But that's all I can recall as to details about what kind of cancer she actually had or the prognosis / time frame of it all. I knew Van wasn't long for this world. You don't survive that many brushes with death and live a long life. Van always makes me think of Final Destination. Like, you can't cheat death once it marks you kind of thing. And Van was marked a long time ago, in my opinion. Maybe her death will mean something in future seasons. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I kind of knew Van wasn't going to be around long when she started throwing up the blood. Typically not the best sign. And we all knew she had cancer, so it was 100% related to that. That makes me wonder if her cancer ever actually stopped spreading. Was that a hallucination too, or was that real? Lauren was so good as Van. I will miss her. Yeah, I will really miss her. I'm almost certain she had ovarian cancer because of her doctor's verbiage and tests she mentioned when finding out it stopped earlier in the season. Okay. I thought it was breast cancer personally, but that works too. I mean, I really don't think they ever said, and I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know how to interpret what they said on the show. Did her cancer come back because she wasn't willing to sacrifice people in order to stay alive? Ty seemed to think that was the course of action that needed to be taken to save Van's life. So I was expecting her to die sooner rather than later. What I was not expecting, however, was for Melissa to be the one who killed her. I knew when Van grabbed the knife from the table that she was going to let her go. And I don't understand why Melissa had to kill her. She could have run away. They could have left, and she may have been able to preserve her secret and keep everything hidden from her wife if she concocted a good enough story as to why she had a chunk bitten out of her arm. While we know they took Van's body and buried her somewhere remote, Melissa's wife is still going to realize that some crazy shit went down at their house. There's blood and jelly all over the walls. If the rug that they had Van wrapped in was the rug that she was lying on in Melissa's living room, then the rug is also missing. Oh, and Melissa's van is stranded on the side of the road out of gas. So how can she possibly play this off and keep this all under wraps? Is she just going to disappear from that life entirely? Lauren Ambrose was a wonderful addition to this show, and she did Adult Van so much justice, in my opinion. Her line delivery was one of my favorite aspects of the adult timeline altogether. Like, even up to her final moments when she's like, I'm dead. It was so good. Lauren and Liv really were the perfect counterparts to this character, and both Lauren and adult Van are going to be sorely missed. I'm I'm hurting on this one. Not as much as Natalie, I will admit, but that sucked. For our next answered question, we get to Simone, Sammy, and Steve. We finally actually saw Simone and Sammy and little Steve for the first time since season 2. I was really shocked to see Ty bring Van to this meeting, but after watching the season in full, I'm realizing that it was Dark Ty who chose to bring Van with her. If her alter wasn't in control, I can guarantee things would have went a lot differently. It was so interesting to see Simone and Van interact, and Simone's, "So you're her, hmm?" I didn't think that Simone knew a lot about Van, but clearly she knew more than I thought she did. I didn't think Ty shared much of anything with Simone about what happened in the wilderness, not the truth anyway. And if Van and Ty were no longer together when they got back and no one knew about their relationship in the wilderness, she didn't necessarily have to tell Simone anything about Van at all. I am so curious as to what clued Sammy in on the fact that Dark Ty was pulling the strings. When we were shown their conversation, she seemed normal, if for lack of a better word. So what exactly is it that he picked up on? We know that he's interacted with Dark Ty before. He referred to her as the bad one in season 1. And I had a crazy thought when I was writing these notes down. One thing I haven't ever been able to let go of completely is Sammy's drawings from season 1. Because I've always wondered what made him draw those things and who told him about what we see taking place in the drawings, because some of them were pretty specific to things that look like they took place in the wilderness. I have a few pictures of them that I want to show you guys. So here's one, and in this one, it kind of looks like that could possibly be Van in the back and Ty in the front, like with blood or dirt on her mouth. And there's a bunch of like faces that are smiling and frowning and crossed out, but there's a heart in between those two figures. So I always wondered if could it be Van? Like, but how would he have known anything about Van? Did Ty talk about Van in front of Sammy? I wouldn't think so. Then there's this picture, which, come on, guys, this literally looks like somebody being hung up and strung up and bled out, like we see Pit Girl in the pilot and in the finale of season 3. That you can't tell me that is not what this is. Like, that's definitely what comes to my mind when I see this picture, is the fact that it could be a representation of what they did in the wilderness. I still have so many questions for Brody. Yeah, me too. He was supposed to be here, but he's not here. So I don't know if we're actually going to get to talk to him. Oh, maybe Sammy sees the man with no eyes too. Well, we'll talk about the man with no eyes, but let's see. What other ones do I have in here? Oh, here's a good one. The one that is on the left of the screen, closer to the left. It's a drawing of two figures, and there's like a line down the middle. I kind of thought that maybe this is a representation of Ty and the bad one, and this is Sammy drawing them out. Like, maybe good Ty's on one side and bad Ty's on the other, kind of thing. Oh, we already looked at that one. And then there's this one too, which I honestly have no idea what this one could possibly mean, with 3 creepy figures sitting over what looks to be a child sleeping. But like I said, where does he get the idea for these drawings? Like, they're so specific. What could possibly make a child as young as like 8 draw this kind of subject matter? I was digging into Reddit while writing up these notes, and I found a post from a few years ago that said, what if Dark Ty had actually drawn these things? Maybe she drew them with Sammy as a and it was a way to tell him what happened to her out in the wilderness. They also pointed out that these drawings look very different from the drawings on the other walls in his room, which makes me think that maybe there could be something to that theory. It was kind of lame, in my opinion, to just write them out of the storyline by having Simone and Ty just divorce. And the only thing we heard about Ty not being a senator anymore was that one comment that she made about how she impeached herself before she ever took office. That was it. Like, they never touched upon it again. They made such a big deal about that in season 1. I mean, I think there was a reason for that, but still, like, it took up so much of the plot, and just for it to fizzle out like this, like, kind of disappointing. I really want to see how Sammy knew about the bad one, besides her creepily perching in the tree outside his room at night eating dirt. But at least we know that they are alive and well. Maybe Sammy predicted Ben and the researchers' outcome thing too. Oh, there are 3 figures laying over another one lying down, so maybe Ty called the wilderness back into existence because of the political race. I think all the storylines in season 1 were just them trying to show us that they were all really just trying to be normal all this time. Yeah, because clearly none of them are normal. They've all got some serious shit that they've never worked through. Okay, here we've reached the topic I was the most excited to discuss, I think. The black box. Oh, black box, you controversial little thing, you. It has been debated over and over and over again within this fandom whether or not the black box would have actually led to their rescue in a real life scenario. And the answer is 100% no. I have a friend who used to work for the Federal Aviation Administration, and he watches the show as well. And he confirmed to me that this type of device wouldn't do jack shit in a crash on land. In order for it to transmit a signal, it would need to be submerged in water. And in reality, it was a flight recorder. And the purpose of a flight recorder is to do exactly that: record the flight, record everything about the flight that's happening. And that's entirely different from an emergency transmitter. But I don't think the creators were expecting us to be so nitpicky about all of this. Anyway, in the world of the show, the flight recorder was something that they were under the impression would help rescue find them. Shauna even says early, if they dropped the black box into the lake, would that have worked? That's a good question. I could ask my friend and I could report back to you. But I know it has to be submerged a certain depth in order for it to transmit the signal. You can't just put it underwater like a foot and it will work. It has to be a certain amount of feet. But Shauna even says early in season 1 that the emergency transmitter is probably sending up a signal or something like that. So they knew that it existed, but a group of teenage girls isn't going to know the real difference between a flight recorder and an emergency transmitter. I also think in the world of the show, we're supposed to kind of lump them into one thing. At least that's how I took it. Regardless, when Misty found that box in season 1, she believed it would help get them rescued. And she purposely destroyed it so that rescue would not come. In this situation, it is entirely about intention. Misty intended to strand them for her own selfish reasons because she was finally beginning to feel accepted by the rest of the group for the first time in her life. And that mattered more to her than being found and going home, which is actually crazy. But as we know, Misty is crazy. And ever since then, it's been a huge Misty-led intrusive thoughts win. Yeah, big time. That's an understatement. Ever since then, it's been a huge question as to whether anyone ever actually found out about the fact that she destroyed it. Despite the fact that she may be crazy, there's no denying that Misty's smart. So she hid the box somewhere so that no one would ever stumble upon it. Until the sat phone comes into play and Misty learns from Van that the antenna was busted. Light bulb idea for Misty. She heads out to where she hid the box and takes a peek inside to see if there's anything in there that may be of use to them. And there's something inside that looks almost identical to the sat phone antenna. minus the fact that they were different colors. As she's putting the box back, we hear, "What are you doing?" and realize Natalie has followed Misty and is now seeing it with her own eyes, what Misty's holding. And she makes the realization that more than likely means Misty did something to it. Why else would she have stashed it somewhere and not have told anyone about it? We all assumed if anybody ever found out about what she did, that she would be dead. There's no way those girls would have let her live because, like we have all said, they all were under the impression that this would help rescue them. So, and she took that away from them. She's lucky it was Natalie who found her, the most compassionate one of the group. Natalie's reaction solidified for me just how good of a person she is. Natalie knew that I know she punched Misty in the face and she yelled "fuck you" at her a bunch of times, but that's so minor compared to what Misty did by destroying that box. But I knew when Natalie did that she was going to keep Misty's secret for her, unlike her bestie Crystal. And it made Misty's admiration and devotion to her in the adult timeline make perfect sense, like why she called Natalie her best friend all the time. Natalie knew Misty's biggest secret and kept it until the day that she died. If it weren't for Natalie, there's a good chance that Misty wouldn't even be alive in the adult timeline, which had to make it sting that much more when Misty accidentally killed her with that needle. There's no way for her to know how stranded they really were. Like maybe she thought they'd find civilization soon when she did it. Yeah, but she shouldn't have done it. Don't get me wrong, Misty's my favorite, but that was majorly messed up. Misty would have hunted without a card draw. Exactly. Misty would have done whatever they told her to. The next question, well, I'm only classifying this one as a half-answered question, would be the man with no eyes. And I was hoping Brody would be here to join me for this segment, but he's not here, so I'm sorry, guys. But I will continue on. Like I said, I'm only classifying this question as half answered because even though we were given an explanation, I still have some lingering questions. We've been seeing the man with no eyes since the 3rd episode of season 1, when Taissa sees him when she's with her grandmother. In the scene, her grandmother is clearly hallucinating someone, and she even says, "Don't let him take my eyes," while young Taissa is standing in front of a mirror, and we see the man with no eyes in the reflection. Up to this point, I believed her grandmother was seeing him as well, and it was a generational thing and had to do with her family somehow. But after learning what we learned this season, I'm not so sure anymore. Ty and Van are watching an old VHS tape when a commercial for an ice cream shop comes on. In the commercial, we very clearly see the man with no eyes. He was almost like a mascot for the ice cream place. When Ty saw this, it was like a light bulb went off in her head. And she realized that she first saw him as a child in a commercial. So his origin isn't really supernatural at all. He was simply a manifestation of something she saw that scared her when she was a little girl. Maybe she was around the same age we see her when she was with her grandmother that she first sees this commercial. Michaela, I see your comment and I'm going to talk about it in 1 second. Misty lied that Lottie wanted to hunt. Which leads me to believe that her grandmother was not seeing him at all. We were just made to think that she is. This is all pure speculation on my part and my personal interpretation, so I could be wrong. But one lingering question I have about him, though, like you just asked, Michaela, how was it possible that Shauna, Van, and Akila all saw him collectively in their shared hallucination in that cave? You're telling me that I'm supposed to believe they all saw the same creepy, eyeless man at the exact same time in a shared hallucination? The odds of that actually happening have to be astronomical. So that element of things makes me wonder. And how does that all, oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. And he seemed to be leading Ty to the symbol trees. Why? Like, how does that all intertwine? His presence also signifies that Dark Ty is in control, We see him standing behind Teen Ty when they're preparing to pack up for rescue. We also see him during Thais' press conference back in season 1 when she was supposed to drop out of the race and she changes her mind at the last minute when she sees him across the street. That's when the switch flipped. But that still doesn't explain why they show him leading her to symbol trees. Did she somehow subconsciously know they were there? Or did she carve them on the trees after seeing the original symbol on the attic floor of the cabin? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. But now we're going to move on to the unanswered questions of the series. And we're going to start with Walter because Walter is one ginormous question mark for me right now. When we were first introduced to Walter, I genuinely believed that he was a harmless guy from a citizen detective board online who just wanted to help Misty. But the more that we've seen of him, the more suspicious of him I've become. We don't know a ton about Walter. We know that he doesn't work because he was hit on the head with a brick or something like that in an active construction zone, and he sued and he won $6 million. We've seen his house, which looks super fancy for a guy like Walter, if you ask me, especially considering the fact that in season 2, he's driving a very old Volvo when Misty and him take their road trip to Lottie's compound. Why would someone with a house like that and money like that be driving an old beater car? In season 3, we do see him in a Mustang. It's what I believe is complete with the license plate, not Walter, which was just the best touch for someone wanting to tail someone and stay hidden. That wasn't the smartest move, unless he didn't want to actually stay hidden at all, and he wanted Shauna to notice him, which is what I think actually happened. Something in me tells me that he wanted everyone to believe that Shauna was the one who killed Lottie. He was the one who collected Shauna's hair for the DNA sample. He was the one who told Misty the DNA results, though he didn't realize that Shauna's daughter shared the same DNA as her, or did he? He seemed very adamant about the fact that Shauna was the culprit, and Misty even questioned him about rushing into things, saying they missed something. She says sometimes it's foolish to rely solely on DNA evidence alone, and she's not entirely wrong. I mean, if they had done that, they would have never found Lottie's actual killer. What does Keith Morrison owe him a favor? Assuming Walter isn't lying, which is a big assumption. Yeah, that line I loved because I love Dateline and I love Keith Morrison. But yeah, what connection does Walter have to Keith Morrison? That's a good question. Walter is a villain. Yeah, I have some questions for sure. Walter equals Edwin's child or nephew. The basis of my Edwin Walter theory is maybe he's Edwin's son and that's where his money came from. His dad goes missing while researching frogs. Walter is a touch shady. We need to know more about him. Yeah, we definitely do. Misty's a super good citizen detective, but I think Walter is too. What exactly are his true intentions in all of this? Does he really actually just care about Misty and we're all reading too much into things? Could he be a red herring? Like, I personally started to feel like maybe it's possible Walter has been in play for a lot longer than we ever realized. Do you guys remember that book Shauna found in Adam's apartment in season 1? Unauthorized Skin in the Game? What if Walter really was a Yellowjackets obsessive and wrote that book and has been following their lives for a long, long time? Or what if Walter and Melissa could somehow be connected, like I said earlier? Maybe for some unknown reason, they banded together and wanted to take down all the remaining adult survivors. When Melissa stabbed Van, it kind of seemed like she still believed in the woo-woo of the wilderness herself. So maybe she's on some crazy quest to be the last one standing because it told her to, and Walter is her helper. Or maybe Walter is the puppet master, maneuvering Melissa to do his bidding. Either way, I don't think his intentions are pure anymore. It's entirely possible that he was just trying to pin things on Shauna because he knew how much of an asshole she was being to Misty, and he didn't like seeing Misty upset. But what was up with the stalking Misty in the finale wearing dark clothes and listening to Slayer music? Not like I was under the impression that Walter was into show tunes. So that's a big change up. And he was definitely keeping tabs on Missy and following her. Was he following her just to make sure she was okay? Or did he have more sinister reasons for that? I hope we eventually find out because I'm obsessed with Elijah Wood's performance. I know Walter isn't everyone's cup of tea, but for me, he's been such a delight. He's so funny, and his banter with Misty was one of the highlights of season 2 for me personally. His line delivery is amazing, so I hope he sticks around. Something tells me it won't end well for him, though. Show tunes and Slayer. uh, when he originally meets Misty in season 2, he refers to her as the Moriarty to his Sherlock. And guys, Moriarty and Sherlock essentially kill each other by fighting and falling off a cliff to their deaths. So that's some bold foreshadowing if I've ever heard it. Plot twist: Walter is a private investigator for someone. Alex, perhaps. That's an interesting possibility that I never considered. Maybe he's just undercover for someone. That's why he's pretending to like what Misty likes when he actually listens to Slayer, lol. I can't picture Walter listening to Slayer. I just can't. Walter doesn't seem to really be into show tunes. Maybe he's not into show tunes, but he doesn't strike me as a heavy metal dude. The next unanswered question would be Cabin Daddy's backstory. So, should we talk about the bonus episode we never got, or should we just skip over that detail? It relates to this question, so I had to bring it up. In season 1, when Jackie is dying, we are briefly introduced to, if you can even call it an introduction, to a man standing in the cabin who says to her, "So glad you're joining us. We've been waiting for you." Before this scene, when they discover the cabin, they discover a dead body in the attic. The girls and Travis, and we as the audience, all made the assumption that the body in the attic was who they referred to as Jacques, or dead cabin guy, and we all refer to as Cabin Daddy. And we, as a fandom, have deduced that the man Jackie saw was more than likely the skeleton they found in the attic. And then poof, that's it. No more information on it since then. I don't know about you, but I still think about that scene and why it was put in the show. For them to give us that little nugget and then never expand upon it seems like such a waste to me. And now, since the cabin is gone, I have even less faith that we will ever get any real answers. So let's get back to the bonus episode for a second. Ashley Lyle kind of stuck her foot in her mouth when she even brought up the idea of the bonus episode back in May of 2023, not long after season 2 had ended. And she confirmed the existence of a 10th episode, an episode that she referred to as the bonus episode. They changed the storyline, so the bonus episode needs to be altered, and or possibly only a clip or two will be in the upcoming season. Well, she told the fandom that this episode would come out closer to season 3. So we waited and waited, and then pictures of Jason Ritter on the set of Yellowjackets came out, and we obviously didn't see him in the 9 regular episodes of season 2, so we made the assumption he had to be involved in the bonus episode. And then we noticed he was wearing a particular coat. The same coat we saw both Lottie and Travis wearing once we found the cabin. And the theories went flying. Absolutely flying. Jason Ritter had to be our long-awaited cabin daddy based on what we got out of those pictures. We assumed this meant we would finally get some answers about our cabin daddy after all. So we waited some more, and then the writer's strike happened. Then we got closer to season 3. The clearer the picture became that we weren't going to see this bonus episode before season 3 hit the air. The creators said they will eventually release it when it fits into the story or something, but after that, I honestly take everything they say with a grain of salt. She should have never put that into the ether, knowing what this fandom is like and how we latch onto things. So, will we ever get the Cabin Daddy backstory? Will we ever learn why the skeleton in the attic was sitting in a chair surrounded by the symbol carved into the attic floor? He had to be tied to the symbol somehow. It was clearly already there before they arrived. Those did not look like fresh carvings in the slightest. I mean, look at that. That does not look fresh at all. Um, I really hope that they release the episode, like, even as a standalone after the series concludes, would be okay with me. We know it exists, and if it really is Cabin Daddy's backstory, I 100% want to see every second of it. I think the strike changed something. Yeah, I think the strike changed quite a few things about what we saw happen in this season. They show Cabin Daddy's arms in the band scene. That's right, Dustin. They do. I totally forgot about that. When she has that hallucination. Yes. Yes. Good call. They want to release something. Too many chefs in the kitchen in terms of the writer's room. Yeah, they do have a lot of writers. We know it exists. Give it to us, right? I know. I know. Which, okay, so the next topic, we're obviously going to talk about the symbol. Another huge mystery of this show, the symbol. Who drew it out in the wilderness? Did the same person who carved it into the trees carve it into the attic floor in the cabin? If so, was that person our infamous cabin daddy? Did he draw the symbol as some form of protection? My gut tells me no, based on something the creators have said directly in reference to the symbol. A lot of people have gotten symbol tattoos, and they have said it may be a good idea to wait on that until we know what it means. Does that mean that we're going to get a concrete answer? Why was it out in the wilderness? And how did Ty know about the damn symbol trees? Something about that is so suspicious to me. Although when she was sleepwalking to one of the trees, she did almost fall off shit cliff. She would have fallen off if Van wasn't following her. But still, how did she know where to find those trees? Did the various symbol trees scattered throughout the forest truly make a giant symbol out in the wilderness? Or did Van, as Ty say, pick random points on a map and connected the dots? We didn't even see the symbol in season 3 until we were introduced to Kodiak, Hannah, and Edwin, and they were trying to hike uh, while searching for frogs. The very first time we see the symbol in the series isn't in the cabin, though. I'm sure you all remember this, but we actually see the symbol on a tree after Coach Martinez's body falls from the tree. Like it's on a tree here, and he falls back there. Also, we should note that when they initially find the cabin, Lottie has extremely bad vibes about the place before even setting foot inside. And she is the one who discovers the body in the attic first. So she kind of had reason to have bad vibes. The cabin is the first place they encounter the symbol. They don't take notice of it the first time that it is shown to us as an audience. But in the second season, Lottie seems to associate the symbol as being good when she stitched it onto the baby blanket that she gave Shauna at her baby shower. Which really upsets Natalie, and they get into an argument over it with Nat saying, how could that be a good thing when it was found around a dead guy's body? Hard to argue with that point. It also popped up in the present day, too. As we all know, the infamous postcards from season 1 had the symbol on them. We then see the symbol again when Misty connects the black smudges that were all underneath Travis's body where he died and form on the ground and forms the shape of the symbol with them. And we later learn that's because Travis, or so Lottie said it was Travis, laid out candles in the shape of the symbol before he attempted to connect with it by hanging himself and losing consciousness. We see it again after Ty and Simone's car crash, and Simone is in the hospital. Apparently, Dark Ty drew it on her palm, the palm of Simone's hand. When Thaisa noticed it, she rubbed it off as fast as she possibly could, but not before the nurse saw it and commented on it, saying it was interesting and asked what it meant. Ty said it was for protection, but if it's really for protection, why rub it off? I agree. She plays the downtrodden. We have zero proof that Jeff sent the postcards. Confirmed in an interview. You know what, Book Monkey? I'm still taking that interview with a grain of salt. Until I hear it from Bart and Ashley, I am choosing to believe that Jeff was not the sender. Because Dan even backtracked a little bit when he said that. He was like, well, I don't have 100% confirmation. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. But There have been so many theories. An editor said it was implied that it was Jeff, but honestly, even if their original intentions could change by the time we find out. That's true too, Michaela. Uh, there have been so many theories as to what the symbol could actually mean, and I will name some of the more popular ones. Uh, it's been rumored within the fandom that the symbol could be a mixture of different symbols from something known as hobo code. And this is a series of various symbols that are typically left in places to communicate things to people about things such as safety. Someone on Reddit supposedly broke down what each part of the symbol means, and they came up with several different warnings, such as stop, get out, fast, keep away, and a man with gun lives here. Man with gun lives here. Dead cabin guy literally died with a rifle right between his legs. Could it possibly have been drawn by him to warn others to stay away? Another one is that it's a symbol of their cannibalism. It can be interpreted as someone being hung upside down with the hook on a hook, with the circle being the head, the triangle being the body, the lines being the arms, and the hook being the way the girl is strung up and bled out. But that would not give us the answer as to who put the symbol there if that were the case. This is more them, the group, giving the symbol meaning because of what they did. The symbol was clearly there before they crashed in some capacity. So that would not be the true origin of it if you think about it. Another really cool theory I saw was that the symbol could possibly be a topographical map of some kind. The various parts could indicate the circle possibly representing a well of some kind, the diagonal lines being opening to underground tunnels, and they did find caves this season, and the bottom hook represents the mine. And there was gas in the caves, so maybe this theory actually holds some water. I honestly don't know what I believe the symbol means, but truthfully, I won't be bothered if we don't get the origin of the symbol. But I do want to know why it's there. I want to know, like, someone carved it on those trees for a reason, so it has to signify something. I'll be a little annoyed if we are not given a crumb as to why it was put out there. But something tells me this is one of those questions that we may never get a clear, concrete answer on, besides what they've given us so far. And they may leave it up to us to fill in the blanks and decide what we believe. I believe the rescuers will have the answer in season 4. Okay, I'm all for that. The Hobo Code was an episode of Mad Men during Dawn's childhood. I remember that, Alan. I love Mad Men. That is such a great show. One of my favorites of all time. There's no eye symbol. No, there's no eye symbol. Mm-mm. They knew the meaning of it when the series started, but again, things have changed. Who knows? Yeah. I also think it's interesting to leave a symbol a mystery of where it came from, but I want to know why it was there too. We'll find out about the symbol when we find out about Cabin Daddy, I bet. That's a good assumption. So the next question that I have, the next unanswered question would be the cabin fire. Now I know it was made to look like Coach Ben lit the fire when he took the matches, which was heavily implied, but I will always firmly be in the camp that he wasn't the true culprit. And judging by his trial, there's doubt there that he truly did it, even though they found him guilty because Shauna forced them into doing so. So if Coach isn't the true culprit, who did it? I've said it before and I will say it again. I think Dark Ty was behind it. I think she did it in her altered state, so she has no recollection of it. And I also think it's possible, maybe probable, that Van saw her do it and kept that secret to protect her. I loved it when Misty turned the tables on Shauna and said that maybe she was the one who started the fire so she could look like the hero. Shauna reacted pretty strongly, and innocent people don't typically act like that, right? And she was up journaling. Maybe she lit the fire and really did want to be the savior, so she pretended to be journaling in case anyone else noticed at first or if anyone woke up or something. To me, Dark Time makes the most sense. It was hinted that this could be the case, in my opinion, a few times this season. Misty, Emily, do you think it could be Lottie at all? I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility, but she's not the first suspect on my list. Shauna could be our culprit. Yeah. I think it's more likely that it'll be Shauna than Lottie. I do. Here's my theory. Like the plane, the Yellowjackets came to the wilderness, and Loyalty's plane, I think the wilderness did it. That is another possibility that the wilderness did it. Misty made a comment about how Ty does shit she can't remember doing. We saw that she had no recollection of participating in the eating of Jackie. She almost walked off a cliff. Is it out of the realm of possibility to assume she also lit the fire? I don't think so. But I cannot see Coach being the person behind it at all. If he really lit the fire, why would he have let Mari go? Why would he have let her go? He knew she was going to tell the group where he was. Wouldn't he have wanted to kill her to keep the rest of them from finding him? Or had he almost accepted his eventual fate and let them find him? Coach Ben was not a killer. Or like just because he didn't want to partake in eating his players doesn't make him guilty of burning down the cabin. He can think they are monsters and still not want them dead. And he was going to hide out in the cave. Like, why did he have to burn down their shelter? He was under the impression that no one but Natalie knew where this tree cave was. And I think he trusted her to keep his secret. If anyone would have, we know it was Nat. Look at the secret she ended up keeping for Misty about the black box. When Coach told Nat he was the one who burned down the cabin in episode 6, we know it was purely so she would get mad enough to kill him, or to give her a true reason to kill him and put him out of his misery. So I think that admission was a load of BS. I wonder if we will ever get true clarity on this. I really, really wish they would have showed us a glimpse into what happened immediately after that cabin burned down. That is a missed opportunity for me, and that is something that I would have really liked to see. I think Melissa sent the postcards. Yeah, when I did my finale coverage last week, I said that maybe Walter and Melissa sent them together. Yeah. I think it was either an accident with an ember or something lighting it, like Bad Ty trying to sleepwalk and knock over a candle. But see, my only thought in that is, if they knocked over a candle on the inside, then why was the cabin only burning on the outside? That would make no sense. Like, the fire would have started inside and they all would have noticed it well before it came to Shauna's attention. So that just doesn't make sense to me, because it happened right after Nat assumed responsibility for the group. And I was like, oh man, she's fucked. I thought after her becoming a leader, he lost all trust in her and believed she was just jealous of Lottie. Only other person we know familiar with the wilderness who could have been outside is Kodiak. Could be an ember. Oh, that's true. Yeah, it could have been from the chimney. Yeah, because we know they were cleaning that thing. The next unanswered question would be Akila's fate. The last we see of Akila in season 3 is her confronting Lottie in the cave. This interaction kind of confused me a little bit, to be honest. It made it seem as if Lottie told Akila to poison the animals, but after the interview that I did with Vanessa Prasad the other night, she said that Akila, Jen, Mari, and Melissa all formulated a plan to prompt the hunt so they could kill Shauna. They needed a reason to have another hunt, and what better reason than your entire food source getting poisoned with winter approaching? In this confrontation, Akila picks up a rock, and it seems like she's going to hit Lottie with it. If we didn't have adult Lottie, I would have sworn on my life that this would have been how she met her end and died as a teen. So does Lottie have to defend herself against Akila and hurt her in order to survive? Or does she simply walk away from the encounter and that's the end of it? Either way, Akila made it known to Lottie that she doesn't believe in Lottie's bullshit anymore. Okay. Her vision a few episodes ago where her and Lottie couldn't figure it out, the one where she goes to camp and everyone glitches out, I bet she started tripping and knocked out. Okay. I think I know where you're going with this, Michaela. You think she got left behind, don't you? Okay. Nia didn't interview and confirm that Lottie was not in on the plan, and she just assumed that she killed them. Okay, that makes sense. Yes. Okay, that's what I thought, Michaela. I think it's possible she could be left behind for sure. But I think what Travis said to Akila in episode 308 when they're hiking with Kodiak really resonated and stuck with her. So I guess we have our answer. Lottie did not tell Akila to poison the animals. Um, Lottie wasn't in on their plan to prompt the hunt. So like her telling her to poison the animals wouldn't have made sense anyways. But we haven't heard to anyone refer to Akila being dead in the adult timeline. Van said Jen and Melissa were dead, though we soon learned that she was wrong about Melissa. But Jen, I'm thinking she was spot on about that. Whether she dies in the wilderness or after they get back is to be determined. But there's no reference to Akila whatsoever. Is it possible that we'll get another survivor and it will be her? We did lose 2 of the adult women. Will they add someone else to balance it out? I don't truthfully think so because they just brought Melissa into the picture at the very end of season 3. And her appearance was brief, but the door was obviously left open for her to come back. And if they bring Hilary Swank back, I don't see them bringing any other adult Yellowjackets into the picture. So in my personal opinion, things are not looking good for our girl Akila, but anything is possible with this show. So we will not know until we see her fate play out on screen before our eyes, like we did with Mari. I need an adult Akila. I would love an adult Akila. She's a great character. Akila is a plastic surgeon. Yeah, many people have said that was canon for Akila. Evans was a stand-in. I think Akila's actress confirmed it. Oh my god, if she's Barbara, that would be. But don't you think that Melissa would recognize her if she was Barbara? I would have thought she got left behind if it weren't for her no-show at the end of the finale and for the empty camp vision. Were there deaths of any unnamed Yellowjackets between cabin fire and the solstice? I don't think so. I don't think so. So the next unanswered question, which is my last unanswered question, would be Javi's friend. After Doomcoming in season 1, Javi disappeared for 2 months. For 2 months, he was out in the wilderness alone. And once Ty and Van stumbled upon him midway through season 2, naturally they wanted to know how he managed to survive on his own. As we all came to learn, he managed to survive because he found a place to hide. The massive tree cave that Coach Ben takes over in season 3. When Coach finds this cave in season 2, it's evident that this is where Javi has been hiding, and I think he makes that connection. It looks as if there had been a fire there, lit there at some point, and small animal bones scattered all over the ground. All evidence points to someone having hid there recently. Javi refuses to talk to the group upon his return or tell them anything about how he managed to survive on his own. He doesn't say much at all after he's found, not even to Travis. And I think it's because he saw them eat Jackie from afar and he was afraid of them. Last season, when Melanie was still with me, we had the chance to speak with Luciano, Javi, while the season was on the air and after season 2. And he told us that Javi saw some things that really terrified him, and he considered them to be monsters. I can imagine that seeing your brother and your friends chow down on one of their teammates without knowing exactly what happened would be a terrifying experience for anyone, let alone a 13-year-old boy. He did make a strange comment to Coach Ben once after he was found, though. He said, "She told me not to come back." And Coach asks who, and Javi simply says, "My friend." And we never get any more elaboration on that. In the second season, Coach also discovers Javi's drawings, and this is one of them. And I don't know if you can tell or if any of you other eagle-eyed viewers, excuse me, realize this from looking at this picture when we saw it in the show, but within this image, within these tree roots, it looks as if there's the figure of a woman intertwined with the roots. Could this be Javi's mysterious friend? When Coach is in the cave with Mari early on in season 3, Mari overhears Coach arguing with himself out of frame. He says, "I'm trying to keep her quiet. I just need time to think. Stop. That's enough." So, who was Coach talking to here? Himself? Part of me wonders if this had anything to do with the gas from the caves that made them all hallucinate. Maybe he was breathing in those fumes and hallucinating, but why wasn't Mari hallucinating at the same time? Like, did you have to be a certain depth into the cave? Like, Mari was close enough to the exit that she wasn't affected by the fumes, kind of thing? Or was he simply going crazy and talking to himself? But this adds to the mystery of the fact that Javi even told Ben that he had a friend. So, who is this mysterious friend? Is there actually a friend at all? Or did Javi make someone up as a way to cope with the things that he had witnessed and being so alone and isolated? It would make sense for him to have made her up. I did ask Kevin Alves about it, Javi's friend, during my conversation with him earlier, a few weeks ago. And he said that he knows too much and he can't answer this question for us. So that makes me think that maybe eventually we may get a little clarity about this. My personal guess, his friend could have possibly been Other Ty. I saw a super interesting comment on Reddit from an older thread while compiling these notes. User An Absolute Zero said, "We know Ty looked like a tree in Doomcoming, and Sammy called her Lady in the Tree," which really got me wondering if that theory could hold some water, like with the whole drawing of the tree and the woman in the tree root thing. Um, Maybe Other Ty was the one secretly helping Javi to survive on his own and visiting him in secret, bringing him food, which would explain the bear meat going missing and Shauna noticing it. Or he just lingered and stole it himself when the coast was clear. And how he had the lantern, which Ty was the one to point out that the lantern was missing in the first place, which I feel was a nod to that. Poor Coach hearing those frogs from underground must have been truly terrifying. That sounded different than the frogs, though, don't you think? I have to go back and rewatch it again. Javi's friend was the talking llama. Maybe Javi was imagining his friend like Coach was imagining talking to someone. That's what I think it was. I think I'm leaning more in that direction. Some of the fandom has been convinced that his friend could actually be Cabin Daddy's daughter, though I'm not entirely 100% sure how exactly it's been deduced that Cabin Daddy even had a daughter, other than those pictures of Jason Ritter on set holding a baby. If his appearance on the show really is a Cabin Daddy backstory, that could actually be true. But I think it's highly unlikely a random woman has just been living in the remote wilderness alone for who knows how many years and hiding out in a random tree cave. If he did have a daughter and she was still around, wouldn't it make sense for her to utilize the cabin? Unless some really dark shit went down there and she just doesn't even want to go near it. I think it's a huge reach and something I don't believe is likely whatsoever. Another interesting tidbit about Javi's return is that he brought something with him. The Queen of Hearts card. I cannot Akila specifically asks him when he gets back where he found the Queen of Hearts card. And if you remember, Natalie even says to Travis that there are no queens in the deck that they had at the cabin. So where did this card come from? How did Javi find this? Could the mysterious friend have given it to him? Pretty random to find a Queen of Hearts card out in the middle of the wilderness, though. I'm thinking this could very well be one of those things we don't ever get an answer on. Like I said earlier, though, what Kevin Alves said to me during our interview makes me think maybe at some point it will all make sense. I mean, do we need the friend to be a real person? The friend theory is one that I'm okay not knowing the answer to. No, it's one I'm okay not knowing the answer to as well. It's just one of the unanswered questions that I know a lot of people have. I personally, like, I want to know who started the cabin fire, and I really want that Cabin Daddy backstory. Like I said, don't need to know what the true meaning of the symbol is. Would like to know why the symbol is out there, but won't lose sleep over it if I don't get either of those two things at the end of the day. Now, I could sit here and talk about this show all night long, as you know. So like I said at the beginning of our conversation tonight, I tried to highlight the big questions. I know there are probably some other smaller questions that people individually want answers to, but We would legit be here all night if we got into the nitty-gritty. For the last little segment, I've included a couple little minor questions that I'm assuming we will get answers to. What happens next in the adult timeline in regard to Jeff and Callie, Melissa? Will there really only be one left standing at the end of the story? Within the teen timeline, how does Hannah meet her end? Will we see Jen's death play out? What exactly happens when Rescue shows up? What happens when they get back to society in the immediate aftermath? Those are just some of the questions that I'm hoping we get answered for us in the next season anyways. It's messed up to get a tattoo of the Queen of Hearts card because I'm adding it to my sleeve soon. No, I think that's a super cool idea. I like that. I would love to see how Shauna handled Callie's pregnancy after what happened with her first. Yeah, that would be really interesting to see. I agree. There's definitely something to the butterflies and moss. Absolutely. They appear everywhere. I mean, she saw the moss in her hallucination of Jackie in the grocery store this season. She's wearing butterfly shirts. Granted, I know one of those butterfly shirts is Jackie's, and it's like a weird way for her to be close to Jackie, but it has to have some symbolism and meaning behind it. What happened to Crystal Kristen? Yes, that was one I knew that would come up. But that's one that I don't think we're going to get an answer to. So, guys, this has been a fun discussion. You know, there's nothing I love more than being here and theorizing about this show. Like I said, hopefully before the series concludes, we get some answers to some of the bigger mysteries that the show has presented to us. Although they did give us a good number of answers to some of the bigger questions this season. Many have said that this could be because they wanted to end the show in a way that made sense in case it's not picked up for a season 4. I personally can't see them canceling it now. Like I've said, I feel as if they set things up for the next season to be the last season of the show. I understand that Ashley and Bart have said that their original plan was for 5 seasons, but as we know, plans can change, and things did change when the strike happened. It's possible that they changed their course while writing season 3 and decided that they could wrap things up in just one more season. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see 5 seasons, but only if it makes sense. I don't want the show dragged out longer than necessary. I don't want too much of a good thing. We all saw how Game of Thrones ended. They rushed that ending, but I just don't want something like that to happen with this show. I don't want the ending to be unsatisfying because Game of Thrones was my favorite TV series of all time, and the ending I still can't watch the finale episode, the series finale. I just can't do it. So I just don't want something like that to happen. I think right now they're negotiating contracts and plots, and that likely takes time with so many cast members. Yeah, but that's to say to that, like, they had season 3 renewed before season 2 even hit the air. So they could have had contracts worked out. They still want 2 more seasons, it has been said. Okay, well, I just hope that it doesn't end up being a wonky story at that point. Wait, what time is it for you right now? Brody, it's 10:30 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time. There's Brody's here, guys. But like I said, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see the 5 seasons. We know Rescue is coming soon though. So maybe this next season shows them being rescued and their reintegration into society. But that could all be done in one more season. The adult timeline specifically made me feel like the next season could be the last. It just seems like they have set it up to be Shauna versus the world with Misty and Ty teaming up together, which is something that I imagine I would never see. Oh, there's Brody's backstage. I will wait. Now we need to ask the No-Eyed Man some questions. I can definitely bring him on for you guys for a couple minutes before I sign off. It's no problem for me. Let me let him get situated because I think he's trying to get set up right now. I wish the season had more episodes. Yeah, that too. Like, they could also go a different route and just decide to make the season longer and just give us one more that's a little bit longer. All right, guys. I'm gonna bring Brody on, and you guys can fire away at him. Are you ready, Brody? Okay. Hello.
Oh, I thought I had like 2 hours to get ready.
I should have specified that it was East Coast because I keep forgetting that you live in Canada. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's my fault.
it's okay. I'm also sorry. I was like about to confirm it, and then I look at YouTube, and I'm like, she's live. She's live right now. Um, so yeah, my hair looks like this, and I look like this right now.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Can you see the comments? Everybody's saying hi to you.
Let me bring it up. Can I pop it out? Actually, I can.
No, you can't?
I can.
Oh, okay. I know Canada has an East Coast too, but I know that he lives on the West Coast of
Yeah.
Canada. More
Um,
specifically.
Uh, you've been on for a while too.
I
Oh,
have,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you should have just spammed me.
I was just about to wrap it up.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. But I mean, we talked about the man with no eyes. So if you want to give us a little bit of insight into that, we all are kind of thinking like, I personally don't think his origin is supernatural based off of what we learned this season. But one lingering question that we all have is if he's not supernatural, then why did they all hallucinate him at the same time?
Yeah, I honestly, I go on the Reddit all the time. I read everyone talking about that. Like people say that maybe they saw him in a commercial too at some point.
Yeah, but, like, that's really hard for me to believe that,
I
like, they
know.
all just saw the same commercial and at the same exact time, they all had the same hallucination. That's just crazy. That's just crazy to me that that
Yeah,
would be the case.
yeah. It's weird. Like, I like to make comparisons to. Have you seen the movie Annihilation? I feel like I mentioned that last time I was on
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the wilderness is like a biome dome and their minds are going together or something. Like I don't know. Like they're becoming like one entity sort of
Yeah.
a little bit.
That's
Um
I mean, it is kinda like a group think kinda thing, so
yeah,
that's not out of the realm of possibility.
like I have no I because Jasmine was there on the day. She wasn't supposed to be. She was just hanging out. Uh but like what? Sorry, I'm reading my favorite
Read
flavor.
away.
My favorite flavor is definitely not mint chocolate. Chocolate chip. That's what I had on the day. Um, but yeah, I have no idea why I was there. I loved being there, but has there been like the other dream sequences right before that? It was a llama, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's I don't know. It's I feel like it's as hard to explain me as is to explain a talking llama. Although she likes animals, so well,
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like he could mean, like, a couple different things because
mhm.
she sees him, like, when at least in my interpretation, like, Thaisa sees him when she goes into that, like, alter state and bad things happen. So, like, sometimes I associate him with bad things, but, like, not all the time. Like, he's guiding her to these symbol trees. So, like, does he have a connection to the symbol trees? Like, why is she seeing him and being led to the symbol trees by him? Like, are we ever gonna get clear? I know you don't know these answers, but
No, I
are
don't
we
know.
ever gonna get clarity on that?
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. I mean,
Somebody's
I,
asking, did they ever give you a backstory?
me personally,
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what they mean.
no, no. I only like I didn't even put two and two together when I was in the Aussies set. Like I didn't know I owned it at that point. Like I saw some pictures of a guy in a suit in some places, but it was
Yeah.
pretty um that was like B Cam was shooting that, and it was kind of rushed a little bit, just because they had to flip that set to look disheveled, and because later in the episode they go back in the
Yeah.
timeline, um, and they see it's run down. So they had to push us there. But so I didn't really put two and two together that I was Aussie. I'm Aussie. So
Yeah.
um the what was the question?
Don't don't worry about it. I'm seeing a bunch of questions in
Yeah.
here. Somebody asked, "How did you get this role?"
I um I work with a shop called Masters Effects. And when I say work with, I mean sometimes I'm on they get me they recommend me for gigs. And Yellowjackets was one, and I still had to audition, and my audition tape was me literally just staring. I'm like, um, and yeah, so it was just through them, and I have no idea where or what happened to the guy in the first season, Bram Taylor or something.
Yeah.
Um, I have no idea. I've even asked some of the producers, and I'm like, they don't know either. So
That's so strange.
it was a long time ago too.
Yeah,
So,
it was a long time ago now.
but I'd like to know. Maybe he just doesn't like prosthetic type work.
I remember you saying it was very uncomfortable,
Oh, in
right?
season it's gotten so much better in season 3.
Oh, really?
And in season 2, I mean, my job is to be uncomfortable, so it wasn't that bad. But my eyelashes would get like caught in the fabric,
Mhm.
and that felt weird. But in this season, I have a time lapse on my YouTube channel of how they applied it.
I think I
Um,
watched that. It was really
yeah,
cool.
nice.
Mhm.
They do like a plastic shield, and then they put the prosthetic on. And for everyone who thinks it's contacts, it's fabric basically over my face. Fabric, prosthetic. But now it's like plastic, fabric, prosthetic. And I just blend.
Can you see at all when you're wearing it?
Oh yeah, so in season 2 it was hard to see. And then in season 3 it became way easier. They use a different fabric this time because I've
Well, that's good.
said it so many times. I'm like, I can't see.
Somebody's saying, "What did they tell you about the character?"
Um, mm, I'm gonna like before the audition or
I
anytime.
think they just mean, like, what information did they give you, like, so that you knew how to play him to the best of your ability?
I don't think they really gave me much. I think it was just
Yeah, I wouldn't think they
eyeless
did.
eyeless man. Um, and then I Googled it, and I saw the guy from the first season, and
Mhm.
I just saw that he just stood there, and he had a pale face, and I always thought they were going to make my face more pale. Then back then I started whitening my teeth because I was scared of that
Oh,
because when your face is super pale, then your teeth look more yellow.
yeah.
Um, but they didn't, so it was just uh, yeah. The only really I don't get much direction either, so I don't know if I'm doing a good job. But I guess if they don't give me direction, it
I would
is.
take that as a good sign.
Yeah, I remember in the latest season, the first episode, when I'm watching Van and Ty make out in the alley.
Mhm.
Uh, I asked, I think it was Lyle at the time. I asked him because I was always concerned on the continuity between the first season No-Eyed Man and current me.
Mhm. Yeah.
I always notice he has his mouth open ajar, like he's always like,
Yeah.
imagine I have no eyes. He always had his mouth open, so I asked him about that, and he wanted it closed. So I was like, okay, there you go. I got these for so I wouldn't scare people on set.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Somebody just
I
said, "Stand there and look creepy and occasionally open your mouth."
yeah, I mean, or not open my mouth. Oh, unless
Yeah, apparently
ice
they didn't
cream is
want you
going
to.
in. Unless they want some ice cream.
Somebody said, "Does he wear a wig for the role? Doesn't the man with no eyes have shoulder-length hair?"
Yeah. Yeah, I wear a wig.
That's what I thought too.
I see a lot of people make fun of my wig too, by the way. A lot of
Why?
I think I look at I look at everything. Discords, the subreddits, um, just Googling. A lot of people like, I didn't even really know what a bob was. But people are saying I got a bob, and there's a Twitter account of my character.
I know there is.
Yeah, it's unhinged. The stuff I've seen on there. And honestly, I go back and look to see if they posted any other things, and they're slowing down.
Yeah.
I need the I need the no eyed mad content, especially when they take my pictures and edit them. I've uploaded more pictures, and I thought maybe they were going to use them. So, yeah.
What are your favorite theories about the character? Do you have any theories that you
About
like that
mine,
you've seen?
about the no eyed man.
Yeah.
Oh, I my memory's so bad, and I was gonna prepare for this, at least a little bit. But theory wise, I don't know if I have a favorite or if I remember a favorite, but I've seen. I don't remember what it was exactly. I saw one where it had to do with. We talk spoilers here. I'm assuming, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So I saw something and read something that because Van is dead, that might mean I don't exist anymore either. I don't remember what the correlation was, but
Because when Van died, Other Ty left and they
yeah,
associate you with Other Ty. So if Other Ty is gone, that means that you're gone too.
I think
But
that's what it was, and it scared me because I'm like, I want to come back. I want to come back. I'm just a friendly guy. Um, and
how
then
tall are you?
I'm 6'6"
Oh
without
wow,
shoes.
you're
Yeah,
tall.
yeah.
I hope the man with no eyes gets to be in season 4 and 5. Yeah, I feel
Me
like
too.
I can't see them. I think you're gonna be a lingering presence for the whole series.
I hope
I
so.
really do.
I want to do like a Where's Waldo thing and just always be in the background of like almost every scene. I think that'd be fun.
You said just a little bit ago that you were on set with Lauren Ambrose and Tawny Cypress. Did you get the chance to like meet them and like say hi
Mhm.
to them?
Yeah.
Cool.
I've last season I met Tawny and then Lauren.
Oh,
Tawny's the
you
one
met
that
them last
scared me.
season too?
Well, not Laura. It's Laura, right?
Lauren.
Lauren. I met Lauren this season. But last season I met Tawny, and she was the one that was scared of me. And I read interviews, and she said I'm terrifying. That's why I got the glasses, and she thought it was funny. She's like, "No, you're okay." I'm like, okay, but Lauren was very intrigued. She like got up close and looked at me. He's like, "How do they do that?" Um, yeah, and I don't know. I think I've said this before, and I think it's fine to say. I'm just like fixing my hair constantly. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
um, in season 2, a scene that was cut out was do you remember, I think it might have been the first episode, adult Ty going into the basement and seeing their dog.
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
You were?
I were. Yeah, so right after um it's does she cry in that scene?
I can't remember if she cries, but I know the dog like runs in and she like
Yeah,
picks up the dog and she's like, "Oh, I won't make the
yeah,
same mistake with
I
you," or
was
something
there
like
for
that.
that. I was there for that, and I had to get the dog. I think its real name was Elvis, and I had to. I was like, Elvis, look, because they wanted the dog to look at me too. And
I wonder why they didn't
yeah,
put that in.
I'm not sure, but I felt very like she's bawling her eyes out. She's such a good actress, and I'm just there, just standing there.
Standing in the corner.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, that was the other time I was going to be in season 2, or my other appearance I was going to have, but then they cut it out for some reason. But
That is really interesting that they didn't keep that in.
I like I still don't have it down on when I appear. Like what makes me appear in a scene? I don't know.
I wish I knew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but now yeah.
somebody's saying good scenes were cut this season too, and I mean, I don't know if you've watched the season, right? Like
Yeah.
you've watched season 3.
Mhm.
Yeah, since the season has come out, a lot of the cast members have given information about a lot of scenes that were cut out that a lot of people really think should have been left in. So I think they kind of have a habit of doing that, of cutting out scenes that the fandom wants to see.
Yeah, I heard about the where they got the tube from, the chicken, the force feeding a deer, the baby deer or something, and that's
Wait,
where they got
what?
the. Yeah, I thought I heard this from your show. The tube they force feed Coach Scott with. I think they got it originally to feed a baby deer that wasn't taking to its mother or something.
A baby goat, maybe?
Baby goat, yeah, sorry. And I think they cut that out
That
because
wasn't me, but that
no,
makes
it might have
sense.
been. I've been watching interviews. I'm jealous that everyone's getting interviewed, so I've been watching. I was here for Vanessa's too.
She was great. She was
Yeah,
really fun.
I DM'd her. Apparently she was at the rap party, and I don't think I ever met her or knew who she was at the time. But yeah, it was, and she likes Lord of the Rings, so I messaged her on that because I saw her in another interview. I'm like, I got Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
tattoos
you
and
guys
all
both
that
have
stuff.
Lord of the Rings tattoos.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I want to have like a trivia battle with her or something.
Oh, Allison said they got the tubes from the oxygen masks in the plane. I do
Mm,
remember talking about this. Okay, I do remember talking about this now. Maybe it was on this show that you heard that, because I remember it might
yeah.
have been Allison that said that exact comment before.
And was it said on the show that that's where they got them from, or that's where logically where they probably got them from?
I don't think it was ever specified on the show.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not that I can remember anyways. Somebody said pretty sure it was a Sammy Hanratty interview.
Oh, maybe. I only got to see her once this season too, and it was like on my way out. I barely
She
got to see
seems like a really
anyone.
nice girl.
She's so nice. She was so excited to tell me she was having a baby.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, I know, I saw on Instagram, and then I told her she could name her baby the No-Eyed Man if she wanted to. But she's like, okay, Brody, I will. Or something like that. I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
she
she's
seems
so
like a
nice.
sweetheart.
She's so nice.
All right, Brody. Well, I'm gonna get ready to wrap things up because I've been
Yeah,
here for almost 2 hours and I don't want to keep these people up any longer than I already have.
fair enough.
So I'm gonna say goodbye to you so I can say goodbye to everybody else.
All right. Bye,
But
everyone.
I
Yeah,
can definitely bring you back for another chat. There's plenty of time before the next season, and I'll be doing a lot of these live streams. So
for sure, for sure. I thought at the most you were like an hour ahead. But 3 is, and there's like daylight savings and stuff like that too.
all right. Well, thank you for popping on. And I know everybody else appreciates it and they love having you in the comments chatting away too. Oh, wait. Somebody's asking, do you have any projects coming up?
I don't know if I can talk about things. I was in Percy Jackson last year.
That's cool.
Comes out, I think, later this year. I was just I played a human in a movie. I don't think I can say what movie, which is
Okay.
rare. I don't ever usually play humans. Um, um, that'll come out and people will find that later. We can talk about it later. I was gonna talk about the Easter egg thing.
Go ahead, you can talk about it quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. I feel like now I'm just forcing it out. I feel like
No, you're good.
I need a question for like that's when I found out that I was Aussie, and we only just recorded that in January. And
Oh, the voicemail.
yeah.
So you're the actual voice on the voicemail.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I feel like I knew that, but for some reason that slipped my mind.
My
So
my favorite line is fudge, honey. If
so
that
what
it
was
would be
that experience like recording that? Like,
it
did they
was
just handed you this weird script and they were like, "Record this for us"?
I got an email and they were like, "Hey Brody, we do this thing. We did it last time with I think the old folks home or something."
Lottie's
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, yeah. And they gave me the number and I called the number to see what it was. Later I found out every time I called it, I got charged $1 because it was an American line. But yeah, they're like, "We do this thing here. We don't have a script yet, but if you're interested, we'd love to have you." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, definitely 100% yes, even though I don't know what it entails yet." Um, and then I got a script and then I went to a studio and I won't remember who was on it. Important people who work on the show uh, were on iPads watching me as I'm in a studio. They're in LA or wherever they are, and I'm in Burnaby, in Vancouver area. And yeah, it took I think like 2 or 3 hours,
Oh,
and
wow.
I did takes where I was like screaming, and it took a while to actually find what they actually wanted. And
Yeah,
I've always wanted to do like voice acting and stuff, but um that was my first like actual like I feel like
attempt.
the attempt. Yeah, and I don't
Yeah,
have I usually don't have lines in anything.
yeah. That had to be a
Um
little different.
yeah, it was crazy, and I had to like say all these weird ice cream flavors and and it got to the point where we did like a there was the silly like clown like demeanor one, and then I did one where I was sad. I did one where I was really angry, and the voicemail is like what 2 minutes long.
Yeah, and it, like, cuts in and out too, like,
Yeah.
it's, like, fuzzy in some areas, so we can't
Hmm.
make out exactly what's being said the whole time.
Hmm. In the script, they call it warbles. Like there's warbling happening, and then there was Morse code, and you guys found the Morse code so quick, and I'm like, oh my god.
This fandom is crazy. They're so
Yeah.
smart.
Um, Maybe they recorded it on a DAT tape. Tee.
We dissected that message like crazy. The ice cream flavors were
Yeah, oh,
fascinating.
there's so many ice cream flavors that didn't make it in either. And they all had to do with, like, bands, I think, but
Really? That's cool.
well, all the positive ones, the bad ice cream flavors was, like, Regret, Grandma's House, yeah, I mean, I still have the script somewhere, but it was just all, like leeches and, yeah, it was fun, and I'm thankful they wanted me to try it.
Yeah, that's really
Mhm.
cool that they had you do the voicemail. I, like, forgot about that little detail.
Yeah, I think it's still up too.
Oh, I'm sure it is, because I think
Yeah.
you can still call the number for, the voicemail from Lottie's compound, which was in
Oh,
season
season
2,
2?
so mhm.
Okay. Hmm,
So I would assume that your voicemail is still active too.
hmm, that's cool. And people left their own replies. I don't know if they're actually doing anything with those, because like, it's a voicemail, right? And then it's like
Yeah,
after the beep, um, and people say they left stuff, and I'm like, I
that's
wonder if they actually are recording these replies. It's just like
that
everyone
would
just
be
hearing. Yeah,
that would be really interesting to hear a couple of those.
yeah. Yeah, anyways, we can definitely talk more when I'm on time in the future. I'm super down. And if anyone else wants to interview, I'm super down too.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring you back for another live stream. I have a few up my that I'm planning up my sleeve for the next couple months. So we'll keep in touch and I'll bring you back on and I'll be a little more clear about what time I need you to be here.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Brody, for popping on.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right, guys. Scary version of Baskin's 31 flavors. All right, guys. I wish I could have kept him a little longer, but I've been here for way too long already. I wanted to keep this short, but when I saw that he was here, I just had to bring him on. He's a really nice kid. So my next live stream, I plan on doing some character deep dives, and I am going to cover. I think I'm going to start with Shauna because she's the juiciest one. We'll discuss her arc over the series as a whole and what could possibly be next for the girl that we all love to hate. If you want even more bonus content, then you can subscribe to Patreon. I put out an exclusive episode there every month that isn't accessible to the general public. And you also get early access to interviews and the opportunity to sit backstage while I record episodes live. And you can come on with me and share your thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, please, please, please hit the subscribe and like button on YouTube. It's such a huge help. And every single like and subscription counts and adds up for me. So Shauna is the new Mari. Oh, oh, where's the link? The link for what, Lola? For Patreon? Let me see if I have it in here. Right here. Patreon.com/Yellowjackets Hive. And you can join for as little as like $3 a month. Like it really is, it's as much as a cup of coffee. So it's not a big expense. And it's not, I'm planning on recording my April Patreon episode this week actually, and posting it this week. And they got access to the Ashley Sutton interview like 4 days before the general public did. So just some nice little perks in there that I'm able to give within my ability. So Lola, if you still need that link, just message me and I will give it to you. Okay. But I think that I've said my piece now. So as always, thank you so much for buzzing in. And thank you, Brody, for popping on. And thank you guys all for hanging out with me tonight. And with that, until I spill again.